And so with the birth of civil government, there's been a lot of attempts over the centuries and millennia to add on to it. So you take the basic simple stuff that God provided Noah, and let's really go a lot further than that. And Noah certainly was not a monarch or a king in his day, but a lot of countries have monarchs and kings. He wasn't a parliament, he wasn't a legislature, but a lot of countries have that.
So this is where countries are trying to find all the different forms. So even today as we're talking, there's so many forms of government. In fact, I have an article on this, and it talks about there's totalitarianism is a form of government. And this is where in biblical history you would see Caesars or pharaohs or emperors, but you also have
But you have that today. I mean, today there's a lot of totalitarian governments, and there's dictators and there's absolutists, and so that's not a new form of government.
So you have monarchies, and again, this is an article outlining these. So there's monarchies, and interestingly, monarchies are easy to identify with a king or queen, but there's also limited monarchies or constitutional monarchies where you can go back in world history. The Magna Carta did that, where they said that the king cannot determine what all your rights are.
And that is British history, by the way. In Magna Carta in British history, there was a limitation put on the power of kings by the people and by the nobles. So there was you have a monarchy, but it's to be limited under law.
Well, then you have republics, and this is where you can see things, whether you go back to Greek history, Rome, you can see different forms where they had republics, and in America, that was kind of the form we went with. Ours was a little different than just a republic. In America, we chose a constitutional republic because we said you don't just get to, if you elect officials, they get to do whatever they want. No, they're actually bound by a constitution. So even though we elect officials, they're bound by the Constitution, which makes us a constitutional republic.
And by the way, the deal with a republic is that's where you elect leaders to represent you. And so we have a scripture in the Bible where that originally Israel started as a republic. Now we know them as a monarchy because of King David and King Saul and all the famous
Or even
kings.
a theocracy, because before the kings there was God. They went from a theocracy to a monarchy, but you're saying maybe there was a step between that.
There was. They went from a theocracy with Samuel, and they're saying we want a monarchy, but the Bible makes clear that under Moses they elected their leaders. And they were told in Deuteronomy and in Exodus, choose out your own leaders, and choose leaders over groups of 10s, over groups of 50s, over groups of hundreds, and over groups of thousands.
So that's different levels of elected officials.
You're electing local officials, you're electing state or regional officials, you're electing national officials, so you're choosing your own officials, and that's what a republic is. Now, it's interesting, you can choose officials, and if the officials are kind of the power in charge, then they can do whatever they want. And that's why America became a constitutional republic. We said, no, we have a written constitution. Our officials don't get to do whatever they want.
So even though they're elected, in the Constitution it says there's only certain things you can do, and actually, even in the Bill of Rights, it says there's certain things you can never touch. So in America, we believe that you have the freedom of religion, you have the freedom of speech, the freedom of press and assembly and petition. We believe, and the Second Amendment talks about the right of self-defense, or it goes on in the Bill of Rights with private property. So those were things we didn't just believe were rights of the people, those were rights the government could never interfere with.